Hello and welcome to the Poly Content Creator Spotlight. Today I'm talking with Don Kieft. He is a content creator, a YouTube educator. So I'm glad to have you on today. I'm Dustin. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on there. Awesome. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Me too. I am still figuring out how I want to do the introduction, so I keep changing it up and it keeps throwing me off a little bit there, but I think it was good. I like having that little meta commentary on the show since we're creators, you know? This is a creator program that I'm doing. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Going off, the way I like to break the ice is to have you share something about yourself that no one knows about you.
Ooh, something that no one knows about me online is that I actually used to own a Instagram team page with 1 million followers.
Oh, wow.
That's basically how I got started. So yeah,
it's always really interesting talking to like agency owners too, because like I've always been a personal branding person. I've never been like an agency or just kind of faceless creator. And when you're building up an agency or building up other people's profiles, you might have the skills that I'm doing, but you're doing it for someone else or doing it for a page that you may not be on the face of. And a lot of those agency owners, they switch to building a personal brand because they realize how important that is too. And it's just kind of crazy to think about, like, I didn't really quite realize that about you because I obviously didn't know. And I know that you had your experience, but where that experience comes from is going to be something interesting to talk about in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, even for an agency owner, it's like a mix of being a creator yourself and doing it for other people, combining that together and then trying to share my knowledge that way. That's like my current goal, actually. So
happy to help in any way I can. The first question here will be a great way to get started anyways, but what got you started as a content creator?
Well, what got me started into what I'm doing right now is that I used to do this for my clients. Like, I used to help them grow. I used to help them with the editing. I used to manage all of their socials, and I pretty much knew all the things that I was doing for them. And then I realized, like, I want to do it myself too. I have some friends who are also in the creator space. So I have a friend of mine. He's called Yuri van Hofwegen, as the Dutch pronounce it, Yuri van Hofwegen. And he actually got me started into doing YouTube. I'm still helping him on his channel. And yeah, I was like, I'm going to do this myself too. And going to give it a shot, see where it ends up after a year. And now I'm like 2 or 3 months in, and it's going pretty well, actually.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we met through Opus, and it's one of those things where I feel like that tool itself allowed for a lot of creators to expand themselves, and you're so used to short form content, so that's probably where you found that. It seems that video is your main content that you make. Have you thought about doing written and audio as well?
Yes, I actually, for example, for Yuri, I help him with the scripting. So I'm big into scripting, big into writing, and I actually hate that I'm not as good as I write, as good as I present. I struggle with reading out the words. Like, I kind of need like a teleprompter. I don't have that yet. But even if I had that, I would struggle to come over as I have in my head. So I would love to do like anything written. Like, I love the concept of Twitter, or like X as you call it. I love to do a blog or a newsletter. And that's actually something that I have in my mind, like that I want to set up like my own newsletter.
Well, feel free to pick my brain. I have over 550 blog posts under my belt, and I've used pretty much every CMS out there. I love writing myself, but I totally get what you're saying when it comes to the scripting. When I first started doing YouTube, I ended up doing a lot of scripting. I couldn't do it. I kept trying to memorize every lines and look at the camera and memorize every lines. And Elgato just came out with their teleprompter, and that seems pretty cool, but that's like a $300 investment. Obviously, I can't do that. Riverside that we're using here, it actually has a little script function that's kind of like a teleprompter at the top. I don't know if it's on your side or not, but that's pretty cool. But it
cool.
is.
I haven't seen it yet, but
yeah,
that sounds cool, yeah.
I can maybe show you my screen afterwards and we'll play with it. But it's one of those things where using a script is so hard. I feel like with your educational-based videos, you kind of need to use it more. I often just go off of bullet points, so I'll have like, either I'll write a blog post and turn that into a video and just use each of the headers as like bullet points for me to go off of. And I kind of just go freeform. I don't know if that's kind of your style too, maybe?
Yes, my main style is actually going like, I write out the entire idea if I have an idea, and then if I need to do some research, obviously that helps. And if I've done my research, then I write down the entire intro. I like to do the intro because the intro, it gives off the most value, and also it is the moment where people click off. So I think like if you script that, then you can make it perfect. If you do it from out of your head, then it might go wrong or it might not come over as you have in your head. So I script out the entire intro, then I write off some bullet points for what the rest of the video will be, kind of like you were doing. And then for some parts, if I have something specific, then I will write down line for line. But also sometimes I write down like what needs to be in there in the editing.
Yeah, definitely the hook in the intro is one of the most important parts, like you're saying there. So that's, if you're gonna script anything, script that is what he's saying.
Definitely. The hook, I like the hook in the intro, and also like your call to action. You want to script that.
Well, and it's interesting too, because I've always was playing around with these micro call to actions as well. So like at the end of a section in a blog post, I would have like a quick click to tweets, or a section where I wanted to lead them to another blog post or something like that, and basically just have that kind of, because you have spots throughout the whole video or blog post, and I was trying to play around with that because I also felt like those would be great points in the video. If I were to turn that into a video, that'd be a great point to do a little call to action or a little ad spot, and just playing around with the format of your piece of content, regardless if it's written audio or video, playing around like, okay, you have your hook here, intro here, main piece, micro call to action, main piece, macro call to action, outro, whatever.
Yes, that's a great idea. That's also something that I try to train my clients, or like I'd like to train them into like thinking long form content instead of like short form content, because like if you have good long form content, then you can segment that into like the shorter form piece of content like you mentioned.
Like this episode, this interview is going to be chopped up into short form, for example, too.
Yes, this is a great example of that.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of short form, I wanted to ask you, what was short form socials or Go Social?
Short form socials basically is my agency, and this is a company where I helped others with their content. And I named it short form socials as I was focusing so much on their short form content, because short form content, it is booming. It is still booming. It has been over the last 2 years. Now there is a ask or a need for different type of content. So it is still booming, but in another direction. And with short form socials, I'm currently like trying to help people build their personal brand. I also do podcast editing. We also do YouTube video editing. We try to help grow the entire brand of entrepreneurs or small businesses.
Well, and that definitely goes alongside yours change as well. You started focusing more on your personal brand and shifting that and getting an experience for that as well. Just personally, where do you think your personal brand's going to be going forward?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I really feel like I started off doing YouTube, and I did it like pretty fast. I tried to create videos really fast, and I noticed I didn't enjoy that as much as I do now by creating like a long form piece of content that also has a lot of quality in it. So I think my personal brand, it will focus way more on quality, maybe upload a little bit less because it also takes more time, and then also head into the direction of like helping small creators, helping entrepreneurs grow their personal brand, but also helping in terms of like editing, giving them good ideas, also maybe giving them like Instagram ideas. Like I really like that space as well. That's also an industry where I initially got started. So yeah, I'm also touching down on that base yet, but I have so many ideas. That's the thing I have.
That's why I started working with like knowledge management as my focus for my personal brand, because organizing all those ideas is such a hard challenge, especially when you have so many, and then you have all these different platforms to go into. Where do you see your content ecosystem growing? Because obviously your video is your main pillar. That's great. Do you think you're going to start doing blogging, maybe courses, audio, bring back your TikTok, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I definitely want to get more into short form content because I'm not doing it at the moment as much as I did like to. That's also because I'm sometimes on a crazy schedule with everything that's going on. But I want to get more into short form content, and I also want to build out a newsletter for people that have gone through my either my Instagram or my TikTok, or especially my YouTube. I think that's where the main traction comes from.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea to do a newsletter. I know a lot of people go to Substack, but personally, I've always been a fan of paragraph.xyz over Substack just a little bit. They're kind of competing for me. Beehive is not really that great, in my opinion, when it comes to what you can do in the long run. But it's interesting how a lot of creators have been building out newsletters, because I've always had like a blog. I do separate the idea of a blog and a newsletter as two kind of different kind of content types, but having some sort of written place where people can go to, especially so you can collect emails, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. So you have been trying out so many different type of newsletter pages. And I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm curious, why is Beehive not a good option for you?
For one, I hated the writing experience compared to like Substack or Medium or Ghost or all the other tools where writing's a lot more free form. You can just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
Beehive took like a block approach, kind of more like the new WordPress where you have different blocks, and I didn't like how that limited your actual ability to flow of thought. And then on top of that too, just the user interface was clunky, and there was one thing that was really annoying. I couldn't make a menu on my site for some reason, and having a menu was very important to link to like my YouTube or Twitch, because I was making my gaming site at that time. Beehive is cool for some of the AI and automation features, sure, but you can just do that with like Zapier a lot of the time.
That's true. Yeah, I should look into it. I'm still really new to that whole industry, so I'm gonna look into it eventually. But now let's first grow on the YouTube side.
Oh yeah, totally. And you want to put a lot of more eggs, because you have a ton of experience. Like I want to make sure I drive that home to the audience here. You have a lot of experience. You've created a lot of content, and now on your personal brand, you have what, 50 videos on your channel now? Something like that.
I think on my YouTube it is like 35, something
35?
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I almost think that like, even though your experience is there, your progress sort of resets since you're doing a new endeavor. So what I'm saying is that Roberto Blake or a lot of these other big creators, they talk about making 100 posts, right? Doesn't matter if it's blog or video. 100 posts, get that experience. And now you're kind of, even though you have experience with editing and making great YouTube videos, you're doing a new style. You're doing something that's different for you as a host. We were talking about just before the call, looking at the camera, for example. These are all skills that you play with when you're making the videos yourselves. So I feel like you're getting to that 100 posts first.
Yeah, I would say, like, even if you're listening right now and you're considering becoming a creator, like, if you look at my first video, even the quality, like, I'm recording on my phone. Like, even right now, what you're seeing right now is recorded on my phone. My latest videos is still recorded on my phone. You could improve so much. Like, even with talking itself, it felt so natural, and doing it more and more, I become better. I can see that I become better. The flow, I get more in the flow, especially as someone who's not a native English speaker. It also might be hard to find the words, but I know I have the words in my head. It's just like speaking them out. That's the issue. But I would say, like, if you're trying to get started with YouTube, just try. And what you mentioned as well, like the first 100 videos, don't take them too serious. Just post them. Just try it out. Go for it. Like, you have nothing to lose. So,
well, and one thing I could mention too is that, like, I love webcams, for example, right? And I've compared and I've watched so many different videos about the quality of webcams and how some people even bring in their phones to that too. I didn't notice that you were using a phone for your videos. Like, I watched a few of your videos and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like 1080p quality, whatever. It looks good. I didn't realize that because you have good lighting, you have good composure, you have like the right kind of angles, that kind of thing. Like, even right now, it doesn't really look like, it doesn't look different from like a webcam, like a high-end webcam kind of thing.
Yeah, that's because, like, if you look back, like, maybe like 5 videos ago on my YouTube channel, you can definitely see it's a phone, because I'm in my office. We have office lighting going on. I couldn't turn that off. I didn't have, kind of what you got going on right now.
This little shiner right here.
Yeah, exactly. So I knew I have some experience. I worked, like, a year ago, I worked as a production manager, kind of like on a marketing agency. And there we did a ton of productions for brands, like to create ads and all of that. And we had always those big lights with me. I had no experience in how to set it up, or I could set it up, but I had no experience how to properly light someone. But that's where, like, one of my roommates, he came out and he said, like, hey, let me help you. You don't even need a good camera. You can just do the lighting. Lighting is 90% of the work. So right now, like, behind the camera, I have this, like, big softbox going on. Then I have some additional small lights, like I have a LED strip that I always had in this room. I have a small light right there. I have a light in a bit of a tricky situation on like a pole with a gorilla pot mounted to it, and it just gives off a blue light, so it's kind of like a hair light. Oh, and I actually have...
It often differentiates the background too.
Another light, yeah. Sorry?
Oh, it differentiates the background too. It gives you a little bit more
shading.
Yeah.
And I also have a light like right here, which I forgot to turn on actually. Let me just do it. So we can see live if you can see the difference. And then we do...
Makes a much more warmer image too.
Yeah, oh, that was the wrong color, but now it gives me kind of like a hair light. So you could just use just one softbox. It will drastically improve everything, and make sure you're in a dark room with not your office light turned on.
Yeah, I was recording an interview yesterday too, and I noticed it's the same kind of lighting as it is today. Ironically, some of the first interviews that I did on this series, I had nice, good sunshine outside. I don't have a light box, but it's all cloudy and gross outside, so even when I open up the window, the lighting's just not going to work. So I have to use the overhead lights, and it looks garbage. But this is one of those things where sometimes you have to work with it and you have to roll with it. But like Don's saying, you can do a lot of really cool stuff if you have good lighting.
True, definitely. Like I started off with the gross light as well, and then I was like, I want to improve it a little bit. But even then, I would say, like, if you focus too much on the quality, then you will never start creating. So I would say even with bad lighting, just start doing it. Otherwise, you would never start.
One thing I really want to drive home, I've mentioned this on 2 episodes already, but audio is so much more important. Having a good microphone is way more important than a good camera.
True, definitely. I have clicked off some videos, or I've mentioned it to my clients also. Like, I'm telling them, like, please, you gotta fix your audio, otherwise it wouldn't even be worth it to edit this video. Or people have their like mic in their shirt and it's like moving around. That doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
But audio is such a big thing as well.
So going into this next question here, what tools do you use for content creation or content repurposing?
And then you're talking about like the tools I use to record, or like...
Really it's pretty broad. It's pretty broad question there. So whatever you feel like is best.
In terms of like recording, I use my phone on iPhone. I use the Blackmagic camera app. That will help a lot to get like play around with the white balance, do all of these settings. If you use the normal camera light with light setup, then it wouldn't look good. Then I use for recording, I use a OBS screen recorder. I have my mic plugged into there, and that's what I use to pretty much screen record there. It's a free option, and yeah, I would suggest everyone to use it if you're looking for a screen recorder.
OBS is best, yeah.
OBS is the best, yeah. Then, besides that, for editing, I use Premiere Pro. Or if I'm too busy with editing or recording myself, then I assign it to one of my other editors who can do it for me. That's pretty much the setup. And then for repurposing, I'm using Opus Clip more and more. I tried it out for a bunch of my videos, and it is amazing. Like, especially if you have like a faceless channel. That's what I'm trying to get into more, because that's also some of my background. So I'm exploring that option more and more. So Opus Clip is a great option to repurpose long form content. Like, for example, this podcast, run it through Opus Clip, and then we're done. And then for scheduling and all of that, I have mixed feelings about scheduling tools. Like, I used to use Metricool a lot, which can repurpose like your YouTube, like Instagram, TikTok, any social platform that you can think of. But then eventually I felt like Instagram, TikTok, they don't really like that you use that tool instead of their own tool. I don't feel like they like that you use third-party tools. So I try to post as much through their own platform as possible.
See, and that's why I like asking that question very broadly, because you went into different things that I thought were interesting. The whole Blackmagic on your phone, for example, that's not something I've heard of before. Yeah. And that's why I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention Resolve instead of Premiere. But
No, I came... Dude, if you ask me what I used to edit on like a year ago, then I would say like I use Sony Vegas. That's the OG platform. What I used to. I mastered that entire platform, and I didn't want to switch. But then eventually my laptop died, and I buy the new one. couldn't use Sony Vegas anymore, then I pretty much got into Premiere Pro. But DaVinci, I like it as well. I don't personally use it, but I think it's a great option. It's a great option to use, yeah.
OBS is something I came across as well when it came to just my own journey. I think I tried Camtasia, I tried Bandicam. We've all tried a lot of these tools a lot of the time, but some of them just don't really work that well. And OBS was the most consistent in my experience.
True, yeah. But there are more platforms coming out, though. I have talked to the people of like Wondershare Demo Creator, I believe. Though that's also pretty interesting. That's like they're getting more advanced now. Like OBS is pretty basic, but even now with some screen recorders, you can already heavily edit your entire video while you're recording it by applying green screens or doing any of that stuff. That's so cool.
Well, and I actually want to give a shout out to the vertical plugin by Atom for OBS, because there's a lot of plugins that make OBS even really better. And like, while this isn't, I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that, it's a TikTok recording. Basically, it gives you a second canvas in OBS for vertical. And so that way you can literally set up your vertical format. So let's say you have a video game going on, you could make your face cam right at the top, and then below that have your gameplay. You can even do some more stuff if you want to go fancy. But that way, if you wanted to just have a clip, you can just click the replay buffer on the vertical canvas instead of the main one, and it makes the last like 30, 60 seconds, whatever you decide, into a TikTok. And so like you said, half the editing's already done, if not all the way done.
I should look into that. That sounds really cool. Yeah.
I figured you would like it. That's why I wanted to mention it. It's one of those things where I really want to play around with the vertical plugin, record like 30 TikToks just using it, and then throw that into Opus to add captions, animations, and all that jazz.
I've used Opus Clip just for that purpose. Like, we have, like, in terms of like the editing tools, you have Submagic specifically for already recorded videos, but you could also use Opus Clip to do that. So you can literally import like a 30-second clip, and Opus Clip will do it for you.
Yeah.
But yeah. But they're also like Connor mentioned, they're also gonna do like a specific tool like that. So yeah.
There's a little secret there. We can't talk too much about it, but I was treading the line carefully there. Well, and what's really funny is that you mentioned up Metricool, and that one came up on my radar recently as well. And I actually hate social media management tools, and that's because I've used most of them. Like, I've used almost all of them, and it's ridiculous. Yeah. And I know that sounds very hyperbolic. I've literally used most of the tools out there. And one of my biggest issues was, besides, I know Metricool can kind of do it, most of them couldn't do automations very well. So if I make a new YouTube video or blog post, I want to be able to send out that automation just like, hey, I made a new video, go check it out. And then the more, I think, important issue I had is I wanted to bulk schedule my TikToks and Reels and Shorts. I wanted all three of those. Now I also do Pinterest. And I wanted a platform that could do all three that didn't cost an arm and a leg, because Buffer could do all three, but it was super expensive.
True, yeah.
And because I remember when Buffer was cheap. Those were the days.
Different times.
But I came across Publer and Nuelink, and I was kind of in this rock and a hard place, because Publer was really good at bulk scheduling, because you don't have to use the CSV method with them, and I hate the CSV method. But their automations was very weak. Nuelink has amazing automations, but their bulk scheduling is kind of weak, and it's even weaker now. And so both tools had two things that I really want. Now I just use both, but it is really interesting how like the automations in Nuelink is really fascinating. They have a lot of different options compared to other tools, and I have over 1,300 TikToks that I made in Opus.
Oh, wow.
That's why I became a brand partner, because I used them so much.
That's wild, 1,300 TikToks, yeah. Damn. But yeah, I would say like if you take every of these episodes and you get like, how many clips do you get from one of these episodes?
So let me give you context. This is my second interview series. The first one, the Polymath Polycast, is where I interviewed multidisciplinary people. Since they're multidisciplinary, the episodes get kind of long. On average, the episodes are like 90 minutes. And so I get anywhere between 30 to 45 clips from those 90-minute episodes. And probably around 27 of them are usable. And I usually, or maybe at least 23. It really depends, because Opus is pretty good. Compared to like all the other tools I've tried, Opus is the most usable amount.
I've tried them out. Trust me.
I've tried pretty much all of those too. But with these interviews, these interviews are a little bit shorter, anywhere between 40 minutes to maybe 70 minutes. And so I get around like 20, 30 clips, and 18 of them are usable. So yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's what I found as well. Like I tested out like from a 53-minute video, I got like 26 clips. And then the thing is, like, you can get so many clips through these tools, but if the clips doesn't make sense, like you said, like maybe 18 of them are usable. Like, you always have that with AI generated clips. That's why actually with my agency as well, we also do like podcast clip editing. We have different strategies for that. Sometimes we use the Opus clip and then do advanced editing ourselves. But we also watch them ourselves, get a spreadsheet and do the entire clip generating section. And then even then, from the same amount of length, you would still get like 30 to 35 clips maybe. But the ones that you're going to use, you will bring it down to like 20 or 15. So, yeah.
I'm trying to be a little bit consistent. I'm very inconsistent when it comes as a creator, and that's a big issue for a lot of creators is consistency. That's a whole nother topic we can go into. But with the interviews, I try to post 12 or so, maybe up to 14, but 12 or 14. And that way I don't send too much of one person onto the feed. And then any kind of excess clips, I add into a folder for use for later. And while, yeah,
I get that idea. Like that's the issue that we had with clients as well. If they were like, hey, I got like, we can do like 10 clips from this podcast, and I'm like, yeah, but what it's gonna look like on your feed? You might want to switch it up a little bit. So, like, I love clients who have a lot of content because there's so much variation in there. But I feel like I definitely agree. That's the biggest struggle, especially, like, for example, if I wanted to get into shorts right now, I might even cut up this episode, but then you get like 10 of the same shorts, which we could do. But then I would like to keep some variations in my video, especially in shorts.
Well, and there's a difference between shorts and reels and TikTok. And on TikTok, it's kind of a send-all. Right now, I'm posting around 7 podcast clips a day, 1 non-podcast clip a day, and then up until recently, I was posting 1 gaming clip a day on there as well, because I didn't want to make a separate TikTok for gaming. I might end up still doing that, but it gave me variation, and that's what I really cared more about. Plus, people are more likely to comment for some reason on my gaming clips than on my podcast clips, so it gives me that engagement. And so I was just trying to cheese the system a little bit. But on reels and shorts, you have to be a little bit careful about posting too much. So like on shorts, they don't like you posting too much. I'm not telling you, I'm more telling the audience here. And then on reels, it was really interesting. I actually lost some followers because I kept posting to the feed and I was posting too much. So now I don't post the feed at all. I just post the IG Reels feed and not the main feed.
I see. Yeah, I would say I would agree. Like it definitely depends on the platform that you're using. I feel like even on YouTube Shorts as well, depending on the type of page you have. For example, if you have a team page that posts like Joe Rogan shorts, then you can just like the gaming method, spray and pray. Like you can. Yeah, that's always the concept. If I try to explain something, then I'm like, do you want to have like the shotgun approach, like the spray and pray, or do you want to have like a sniper approach where you focus onto one thing and do it that way?
Oh, I want to interject here because it kind of made me think of something. I was playing literally before this call Apex Legends, and for the longest time, my 2 guns that I was using was a sniper and a shotgun. That's how I would play the game. So if I came up close to you, boom, you get a shotgun. If I'm sitting there far away from you, I'm sniping you in the head. It's one of those things where I think that's a cool approach to content, and I think that's a unique approach. Most people do one or the other. I had a friend who works for a company, and that friend was only doing the sniper approach, trying to optimize the videos to the 100% fullest capacity, but they weren't posting hardly at all. Whereas the other approach is like posting way too much and not really getting any kind of optimization or paying attention to what's working. And you need to find that middle ground. I think you should post too much. You should spray and pray, but also spend a decent amount of time doing 1 or 2 focus posts a week.
I agree. I would also say you could also use for different things. For example, you can use your long form content like we're doing right now to focus on as much quality as possible, and that's kind of like your focus, like your sniper approach. And then you can apply the shotgun approach with your short form content, because that's what you can like cut up into pieces. But yeah, I mostly agree with what you said as well. Yeah.
Well, and I think you bring up a really interesting point, then, is that I was kind of talking about just purely short form strategy, because you could do the same thing with long form too, shotgun or sniper.
True, yeah.
But one thing that I think Ben Kaluza and James Hicks, who came on the show, they're talking about is live streams. So there's 3 content types. You have the short, long, and live. And as a creator, you usually start with one of them, and you might move on to the next one, and then you're trying to learn the third one. Like right now, I can't really do live streams very well. I haven't really done any Twitch streaming either. I'm learning that. I'm good at short form and long form. Before we get into that, what do you feel like you're good at? Long form, short form, live? Like, what's your skill set?
Ooh, I would say long form if I'm not scripted, or doing a call like this, also not scripted. That's probably where I'm best at. The thing that I struggled the most with while doing my own short form was the scripting. The scripting, it always went horribly wrong, even with like a 30-second script, like we mentioned in the beginning. You can just look at the words and then you're like, oh, I gotta say this, and then when you're trying to explain it and also come over across naturally, then it all goes wrong. So that's why I would say, like, for me, it will be long form, because you can freestyle with that.
Interesting. I think I started out with long form as well, so I definitely resonate with you there. And what you were saying there with the whole shotgun versus sniper approach is that it also matters in that trifecta. So while in short form, you could take sniper, shotgun, long form, sniper, shotgun, even live streaming. So there's a lot of Twitch streamers. You were mentioning gaming earlier. A lot of gaming Twitch streamers would try to do the shotgun approach, where they're streaming every day for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. There's no discoverability on Twitch, so it's not really worth doing that. But that's what they're trying to do, because at some point during the day, they're going to find somebody to kind of get attention from. But there's also the sniper approach, where you're doing like 1 or 2 streams a day, but you're marketing it really well on other platforms, and that way you can get more traffic. So it's interesting how all 3 areas have their own strategies, widespread or focused.
True, and I would also say from all 3 strategies, if you master one of them, then it's all connected. Like, if you become better at scripting, then you will also become better at freestyling your videos. If you become better at freestyling, then eventually you will also have some kind of idea in your head, and you will also become better at doing scripted videos, for example. But with short form especially, you want to keep it natural, and that's the issue that I see going on with most people who do scripted shorts. It comes off way too like either laser focused in the camera, not putting the right amount of I don't know, the punctuation in your voice, is that the right word? Like the right amount of emotion in your voice, putting in stops, knowing how to talk. That's the issue when you do like a script, if you are not familiar with how to script.
I had a TikToker friend who was telling me how when she was doing her videos, she's a perfectionist, and so she would only do things if they were perfect. She would only post it if they were perfect. And while I understand her mentality, it actually led to her getting some comments where she's like, the comments are like, you never blink, because she was scripting it so well that she blinked in between takes. And so it was one of the things where it came off kind of like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's weird.
True, yeah. Yeah, that's why I also like people who try to keep it naturally. Like, I feel like if you can also overdo it. That's also a big issue that you see going on with a lot of creators. Yeah. Also, I also tried it myself. I also had something like, I wanted to have it perfect, and now I'm just like, it's okay if I make a mistake. It's okay if I sometimes can't find the words. It's okay if you stumble across something. You just learn from it, and it also shows that you're also like a natural human being. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like, do you also run into those issues while doing like even your podcast right now? Because this is kind of like live.
Well, what do you mean? Can you define the question more?
Do you sometimes feel like during a podcast, like, oh, I should have said that better, or I would have wished I could cut it out and re-ask that question to make it perfect? Like, do you have that issue as well?
No, because I'll just say it again. I think I did that earlier where I messed up and I just repeated myself, and I'll just cut it out when I'm editing. Like, I already thought about I mentioned in the intro, I did that little meta commentary where I was like, I'm changing my intro up a little bit, and the way I wrote it was different than how I said it to you when we started the call. And that's because I'm trying to switch things around. I wanted to introduce your name first before mine. I don't know. I was just playing around with it. And afterwards, in my head, I was trying to focus on our interview, try to active listen. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to cut this part out. I'm going to cut that part out so I can make that intro flow a little bit better. And so now when people watch this segment, they're going to be like, oh, so that's why there was cuts. And so I just know that since I'm editing it and whoever I'm going to have hired down the line to edit for me, they can help fix any kind of issues like that. So I'll just say it again, cut out the first one. Also, I don't know. This is something that you made me think about a moment ago. I don't believe in deleting content, right? Even though some people might want to change their channel niche, right? And they want to switch focuses. Well, all those other videos is what led you to where you're at now. And sure, people might find you, like let's say you changed completely. Like right now, your education, your tools, you're teaching people. Let's say you wanted to start, screw that, I want to do gaming. And so from now on, your channel's all about gaming. Well, you have all that history there. You have all that reputability. Yes, your channel is no longer about the same topic, but those people can come into you. They'll watch your content for you because they like how you're presenting it. You may not be making that content anymore, but they might stick around because they still like who you are. And so I don't believe in deleting that old content, for example, or even like the over editing the episodes.
I find that interesting because I feel like where I come from with my ideas, I would say like if you are switching it up, it might be better. I wouldn't essentially say delete, but maybe like rebrand it or create a new channel. Because also it might confuse people. That's my view on it. Like I would say, like for example, if you watch my Instagram right now and you're like, this guy is like a short form content editor or like a short form content agency, and then all of a sudden I switch my page to fitness, then all of those people are like, the reason they followed me is for my short form content tips, and now I'm all of a sudden giving like fitness tips. And then they might think like, yo, why am I even following this dude? Because I find that a tricky idea, but yeah. I get it, but I feel like it depends on if they follow you for you or follow you for what you bring to the table.
Well, and that's a definitely interesting topic. Maybe we can expand upon it because it's kind of the specialist versus generalist mindset too. Are you narrowed centric, or are you the person like human beings are not one dimensional. Even if you're a specialist, you're gonna have a hobby, you're gonna have other things that you're skilled at. This is something I talk about on my other show. I shouldn't say main show because they're both important. My other show is about being polymathic, being multidisciplinary, doing many different things, and highlighting the fact that that's okay. That's actually natural for human beings to be. And the reason why you were mentioning like, oh, people might get confused or it would be better to make a new channel is because of search engine optimization for one. Like that's kind of how we've been trained as creators. Sure. But it'll take a little bit for YouTube to relearn what you're about, but it will do it. And also too, it might take a while, but it will do it. Also too, if you start a new channel, you have to start from scratch. You have to also then start marketing it as well. I find that making a new channel, it took me a really hard time to convince myself to make a new channel for my gaming. Because all my different topics that I do for my main channel are all part of that same meta brand, the PolyInnovator personal brand. But I was taking a very wide-ranging shotgun approach to my gaming channel. And all the other stuff that I'm talking about are more sniper-focused, like poly and content stuff, content repurposing, swimming, very specific. That's on my main channel, but they're very niche. The other channel, wide-ranging, I'm going to make a new channel because it's already going to be wide-ranging. I don't want to have a whole shotgun on an already shotgun channel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
Sorry, long tangent.
But, no, I understand. But would you also not consider like doing like one thing? For example, let's say you focus on the PolyInnovator stuff, like that approach. And then you create... that kind of defeats the purpose because that's like expanding different skills and using all that.
Well, I did think about it like it has separate hubs. So like I was doing Substack and then Paragraph and all these other, and Beehive. That's why I was trying them. I was using them as separate hubs for my main site. And so like, okay, content repurposing here, gaming here, swimming here. And that way it'll all funnel to the main site, but they had their own place. So it's kind of a hard thing. Like it also depends on if your topic, your niche, your sub niche, I guess you say, is it big enough to have its own website, like my gaming stuff, for example? Or is it small enough, like my swimming stuff? I taught swimming for a decade, just for context, and that's why it's an important part of it. That's on my main channel, and that's not going to go anywhere because that's part of who I am.
True. Yeah, I like that idea as well. I was also thinking, like, if you look at any of the big YouTubes, let's say you look at the Sidemen, for example, most of them started off as like a gaming channel doing like FIFA. Eventually, they also expanded into other games, and now some of them are also showing lifestyle. But I think if you, let's say you start in one niche or one area, and you kind of like master that and you have built your own following, then I would say, like, let's say you're also into fitness, you're also into traveling, you can bring more of your own lifestyle and bring that on over to people. But I would say if you're starting out, I would suggest starting in one niche area. If you're not, I wouldn't like do the shotgun approach if you're just starting out. I would say start in one area, focus on that, and eventually you will get fans, you will get people who watch you for you.
Yeah.
And then you can also do that like lifestyle content or like the travel content.
No, and it's a brilliant point, and it's one of those things too. It's like you have to do that sniper approach so that you could do those 100 reps. If you do the shotgun approach, you're not going to get enough time to do the 100 reps, and you need the 100 reps to build the fans, get the skills, that kind of thing. I want to point it out there. The reason why I did the shotgun approach is that that's what my brand is about. It is about being multidisciplinary. Yeah. It's a very like specific reason versus what a lot of people might do, but this is more about you.
That was when I brought up the topic. I wanted to put you as an example, and I was like, no, that defeats the entire purpose of that topic. So
yeah. Well, and I appreciate you acknowledging that too, and I just wanted to make sure I mentioned it to other people, like what you said there, like focus, narrow down. It's okay to go wide later. In fact, a lot of people, it's actually kind of an hourglass. People go wide, or they like narrow at first, wide, narrow, wide. It's kind of a pattern. But let's get to the next question here. Can you share your favorite story that's happened to you as a creator?
Oh, yes. Then I would have to go back to like 2017. I was not the creator that I am today. I was, in fact, like I mentioned in the beginning, that I did have a team page, which was focused around football or soccer. Like, are you from? Yeah. You call it soccer, right? Or do you call it football?
Yeah, I grew up with Spanish speakers, so I call it both.
Okay, right. Okay, so I actually started off as a soccer content creator. Ooh. I was so into soccer, and I did it like every Sunday with my friend. We brought on our phone and tripod, and then we started recording our entire thing. And that is what got us like into creating YouTube videos. That's how we got our first 1,000 subscribers. That's how we started our Instagram page, and our entire Instagram page was first focused around our content. And then we grew that page through the help of other people's content as well. And eventually we got approached by big brands. We talked with Adidas, Puma, New Balance. We got sponsorships for others brands. And then the coolest thing that happened to me or to us during that time was we were just like 16 or 17 at that time. And we got approached and they were like, hey, do you want to go to London to this Puma event? And we're like, what? Yeah, all tickets, flights, expenses, hotels, everything is paid for. We just want you to come there, bring on your camera, just go and have fun. And we were like, we are 16, 17. I've never been on a plane by yourself. We're using at that time like a Samsung Galaxy S5, for example, to film our videos. It was just using a phone. We didn't even have camera equipment, and we were just like, shit, what are we gonna do now? Like, how are we gonna... We kind of like faked it till we made it, and now we made it, and we weren't like prepared at all. So that was like the moment where I experienced, and my friend as well, like what the possibilities of social media are, and how awesome the internet is, that you can now create like a job on the internet instead of like working in normal 9 to 5.
That's so awesome, Dan. And I this is an interview about you, but I really would like to share a story that's similar, because I really feel that what you're saying there. We're using Riverside right now, and all randomly, I was on Twitter one day, X, and they had a tweet saying like, hey, reply to this tweet and you can win tickets to a podcast conference in Denver. And I was one of the only ones who replied, and so I got the tickets. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and that was like you said, that was the first time I ever went on a really plane solo for the. I guess I flew back one place solo, but it's the first time I ever went by myself both ways solo. And I managed to find a way to get an Airbnb. Like it was a week before it happened too, so I had to make this happen like quickly. Got an Airbnb, got the plane tickets, all that sorted. But it was just one of those things where like that all happened because of social media. It happened because I was a creator following this tool and partnered with the tool. So it's just one of those things where I totally empathize and have like I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome what it has to bring and what it also has to offer. But it's also good, I think, that these tools, these brands also acknowledge like the fact that social media is bringing so much of a great audience to those people.
Yeah.
Like especially let's say like the Marcus Brownlee, for example, a big creator. I feel like it will be even better to hire him than doing just ads on your product, because he has a designated audience, and that's what is great about so many creators nowadays. Like you can build up, like for example with Nick, you had it on the show like lately. Like Nick as well, he also has an audience with a specific interest. Those type of creators, they are much more valuable to use as like brand partners than it would be to spend that money on ads.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because it kind of goes back up to that sniper shotgunner thing too. Nick, as a person, is very much a polymathic shotgun kind of person, which is kind of interesting to think about because when you see his channel, he has a very sniper approach. He's definitely a specialist when it comes to YouTube and video creation in general, but like he is a sniper when it comes to his content. But it's just, yeah, he's a great example.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I always find fascinating. Like if you explain it to like older people, like they have no idea what you're doing online, and then if you're telling them like, for example, if I tell my girlfriend parents like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and this is going on, and then they're like, what? Like they can't even imagine like the entire process that goes into how we nowadays do like business or do the entire social media stuff.
I am kind of grateful to 2020 for popularizing Zoom more, because I think that helped a little bit when it came to like video meetings, like just making people of all ages used to the idea of video meetings and doing things online. Because like even when trying to explain these interviews to people who are older, they're like, okay, great, honey. Like, but now that they are used to Zoom, they're like, okay, you talk to this person. That's really cool.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like during that time, and like I was still a student back then, and then we had to do like all of the Zoom meetings and all of that. But it even helped, like talking in front of the camera. I remember I was doing an internship back then, and it was horrible going. Like the first, what was it? Like my first day was through Zoom from my home office, and then from my small room. It was horrible, and I was also like really, really nervous to talk in front of a webcam where you can barely see 2 pixels.
Yeah.
And now I've gone to this for like a full setup and all of that. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
It was really funny going into like certain Zoom meetings with a freaking microphone, right? I guess you can't see it, but I got the Blue Yeti mic and all that jazz. And it's just one of those things where,
awesome.
yeah. But it's just like one of those things where like, you go into the meeting and you're just way more set up than they are.
True. Then they're like, whoa, what is this you doing? I remember when I bought like a mic like this and I connected it to my like PS4 and then was joining like the party back when I used to do gaming. And then they were like, Dan, you sound so crisp. Like what's going on? Do you have a new mic or something, or what's going on?
Have you ever thought about doing more gaming content or something like that? So you like soccer. Did you ever do like FIFA or something like that?
No, not at all. Like no, I haven't really gamed. Like I felt like the last time I gamed has to be like 2 or 3 years. It was during the pandemic. Then I picked up like Call of Duty again. But after that, I just got too busy with work and all that.
Well, I do feel like around early 20s is an age where you're so focused on career and life that you just don't have as much time. Because when I hit my mid-20s is when I started gaming again, and like later 20s. Because it was kind of funny. There was a whole break there. And I saw the same thing happen to my uncle. I said the same thing happened to my friends. So I wonder if that's maybe in a few years to be like, I want to pick up a game again.
I mean, like, I definitely miss it sometimes. I miss the ability to just like wind down and just to do something while not having to like, how do you say it? Like,
be productive.
You don't have to think. Yeah, you don't have to be productive. That's the issue that I'm constantly having. Like, I work a lot. Also work sometimes during the weekend. sometimes during the evening. Like, I feel like that's the fate of like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You constantly see opportunities, and then if you're a gamer, you're immersing yourself like in a different world. So I would definitely have to pick that up again as a form of like relaxation. Nowadays, I try to do it as much through like fitness and sports and all of that. But doing something else also might seem like a good thing to do.
Yeah. I definitely like using it for decompression, but I definitely had the idea too where I was like, oh, I'm not being productive right now. Like I couldn't actually decompress or relax because I was like the entrepreneur mindset, like I need to be doing something. But yeah.
It's a curse.
Yeah. Last kind of question here. What do you have coming down the line that you're excited for?
I'm currently working on a big video in terms of like short form content. I've done like I want to combine the experience that I had from the time that I did like that team page and where we grew to like 1 million followers. During that time, I saw some patterns like, hey, this is the reason why this is going viral. This might be a reason why that's going viral. Now I'm constantly seeing like kind of like small opportunities of types of content. So for example, right now I see it in the motivational type of content. I see people posting certain content that performs really, really well, and they have some sort of strategy behind it. So I'm currently working on that video. I have scripted it pretty much halfway. I'm almost going to script the entire video, but I know I'm going to freestyle, but I just want to make sure the structure is perfect and explain it as best as possible.
So what I would even kind of call that, this idea comes from blogging, but it definitely works for videos as well. It's called the blockbuster post, right? And so once a month or twice a month, I make these mega blog posts that are like my special posts. If I'm super interested in something, I'll write about it. Or if some kind of great idea comes around, I'll write about it. And I think that's kind of what you're making there is like your blockbuster video.
True, yeah. That's I knew like I wanted to continue uploading like at least like once a week. But now I'm at that point where I'm so submerged into that topic that I'm like, oh, I gotta do this first, and it might even take me like an entire month to get it right. But I just want to get it live, and it is kind of a risk because you don't know if it will perform as well as you have in your mind. But it is still fun to create though.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely see a place for that mega post, but then like consistent medium posts, and then that shotgun like shorts approach too. And you have if you have all three, that's the most successful channel.
It's like the what's the strategy called? The 3H, the hero, hub, and I don't know what the other one is. Like that's literally that approach. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think I came across it, which is kind of funny because a lot of those ideas multiple people come up with. There was something I actually wanted to talk to you about before we wrapped up, and I totally forgot about it until now. You mentioned how you had like a faceless channel in the past, and just for context for people listening in, there's those motivational videos on TikTok that people have made. There's also those Reddit channels where people are making automated Reddit videos using Python scripts or using whiteboards to make videos, like those little whiteboard video scribe kind of things. So what was your experience with it, and what could you tell us?
Well, from my experience, you're referring to the time where I had the team page.
I think so.
That's what you're talking about, right? Yeah, that's from what we had going on was in soccer or football. We literally posted like the best clips of like user-generated content, but also, let's say, a famous football player, let's say Messi or Ronaldo, do something funny or something happens. We posted that. We were literally like on top of like the latest trends. We did that like all the time. It was a very fun thing to do, and especially if you're looking at it from a business perspective, especially now, you can definitely do that as a full-time job. But it's also a bit challenging because you have to post like 5 times a day. You have to look into the latest trends. You have to constantly be online. So that's why eventually we stopped doing that.
Well, and I guess I should also mention too, like your style was gameplay, but like faceless, and there's also like tutorials. That's interesting because yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, it wasn't really gameplay. It was more like real life football examples, like that.
Well, sports gameplay.
Or you meant sorry,
gameplay
sorry,
in general, not like video gameplay, but yeah.
Okay.
Just anything where your face wasn't on it. So I'm trying to go for.
True,
and I was curious at your history about making a faceless channel, and that your point of having to be constantly on top, constantly informed. That's really important too. I'm really curious about faceless channels. I almost feel like it'd be an interesting thing to have a faceless series on a face channel. So like if let's say you have you're soccer focused, and you go on the soccer subreddit, and there's some really great posts on that subreddit, for example. You can make a Python script to make, r/soccer videos on your channel, and that way you have a consistent video every week that may not be you, but it is your topic, and at least keeps things going in case maybe you're sick one week and you don't want to make a video. Well, you at least have a video going out no matter what.
True, that's interesting. I do find it interesting though. It fascinates me, like the stuff that you can do with AI, and also the videos that get created by that. But I do want to mention, like, for example, if you were to create like a faceless Reddit shorts channel, the chance of you getting monetized with that are pretty close to zero. Like the issue with like those faceless channels is that they have that they break the rule of YouTube, which was like what is it called? Like the repetitive content. That's what it's called. So if you were to do a channel like that, you have to be unique. That's the same for being a creator. Like either faceless or being on camera, you have to create unique content, otherwise it wouldn't work. And
you brought up a great point. It's not quite what I was saying. I was saying you have your normal channel, like your faced channel, and you have a series on there that you have that's faceless, that's just automated. And that way you're using AI and automations, but not necessarily it's the only thing on your channel. You might have 3 other series on your channel that's actually you talking. But I think it'd be a nice way to keep things consistent if you are slow to create.
I see. Yeah, no, that sounds interesting. That's definitely also something, not having to worry about like the camera and all that. It just allows you to create fast. Yeah.
Well, and this last thing here is going to be a little complicated since you are rebranding, but where can people find you online?
They could find me primarily on YouTube. It is Dan Kieft. That is where I try to post weekly, and I try to zoom in onto topics like AI, marketing, tools for small businesses, all of that. And then you can also follow me on Instagram, which is Go Social with Dan. And it might even be just Dan Kieft in the future. But that's something I got planned on for the new year.
Yeah, sounds good. I have links in the description for you there, bud. And so this is Dan Kieft and Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator, on the Poly Content Creator Spotlight. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you.